Welcome to this tutorial on creating a full screen graphic in Photoshop, including a long shadow. This is kind of a contemporary style that I see on a lot of different graphic designs. And this is a super easy way to do it. There's a multi-step version of this, but you're going to use an action to create the shadow, and it's really easy to download it and get it into your version of Photoshop. So basically, you're going to go to Google and you're going to search long shadow Photoshop action, and then if we go over to this all tab, I was just in the images tab there, it's the first or second link here. I think I actually clicked on the second link. So this attachment, if you click on that, it will ask you to save the file, and yes, you're going to save the file, and it goes into your downloads. And if you have Photoshop open, so you're going to go to Photoshop, if it's not already in your dock, it'll be in Finder, Applications, and then you're going to go over to Adobe stuff, and then Adobe Photoshop, and then here it is. And you might want to just drag that down to your dock to add it to your dock if you don't already have it there. But have Photoshop open before you click to this download, and you can also find it in your downloads. So if you go to Finder, Downloads, it should be the topmost one, and then I'm going to double click it, and then it loads it in my Actions pane here. If you don't see this, you go to Window and then Actions, and then you'll have this up. So basically you just select the action and press the play button, and it'll do it to the text layer that you're going to be acting upon. So let's make the text. First we're going to create a new file, New, and then we're going to set the document type to film and video, and that'll make it 1920 by 1080 pixels width by height, which is your high definition video that we shoot in most of our cameras. Say OK. And at this point we're going to save it. So you could do it in that screen there, but I want to just say File, Save As. And then you should have an external drive. I don't currently have one on my machine, so I'm going to plug one in so that you see that I'm using an external drive. There we go. Plugged into the back, and it'll pop up in my devices momentarily if it's plugged correctly. It's spinning. There it is. Okay, so you'll see a LaCie drive, and then notice that I have a subfolder with my full name or last name, and then 16-17. You may want to make one of these if you don't already have one. I think in class, in the file management tutorial, we do a first name, last name, all caps, 16-17 library, and then also a first name, last name, all caps, 16-17 folder. So the library is for Final Cut, and then the folder is just a folder where you're going to store all of your stuff on the drive. Once you have that folder, you're going to navigate within that folder, and you can make subfolders within here if you'd like, but we're not going to save it as a JPEG. I want to save it as a Photoshop, and then this is a Photoshop format, and then a JPEG will be later. Photoshop is going to be all of your layering included. The JPEG is just a single image, doesn't include any of your layers. So I'm going to use my correct file management, 11, 28, 16, and we're going to call this fixed shot BP for my initials, and then I'm going to and actually you should put your name on every file. So we'll go ahead and put that in there, and now there's our Photoshop file. It comes up with a white background. You may have a checkered background if it doesn't come up with white transparency. If it's white, then you can kind of keep on keeping on. If it's transparency, same thing. Basically, we're going to be making a layer anyway for the background. And to do that, you're going to have to go into your tools, and you go over to the side here, and we're going to grab, if it's set to the paint bucket tool, you have to click and hold the paint bucket tool, and then go to the gradient tool. And then I already kind of have a gradient here, but I'm going to change it to a different one. The gradient makes it go from one color to another color, either from left to right or right to left, or in a circle, or in kind of different variations of how the gradient goes from one color to another. So I'm actually going to use a circle. It kind of looks like this glowing halo from one to the other. And then if you click into this color section here, the top is going to be your opacity, and the bottom is going to be your color. Opacity is like how much you can see through. So if it's set to 100 opacity, then you can't see through it at all. If it's set to 0, you can see through it, and you'll see the checker boxes kind of coming through there. We're going to leave the opacity up for this one. We don't want to see through it. If you were to save this file as not a JPEG but a PNG file and bring that on top of a video layer, you'd be able to see through it to the video layer beneath. But for this, we're just going to make it a solid color. And then color-wise, you can go a little bit bold. MTV uses this kind of color scheme where they go really bold and then go big chunky text on top of it. So we're going to go for like an MTV kind of ident logo thing. And then color-wise, we're going to go to like maybe a really kind of funky blue. And then, you know, this yellow is actually kind of cool. Maybe I will go a little bit bolder in my yellow. Going up and down until that arrow thing goes away. It's kind of funky looking, blue to yellow. So let's try it. So say OK. And then when you have the tool selected, if you draw a line, it'll make a gradient with a circular or radial shape from blue to yellow, from where you click to where you stop clicking, or where you click and hold and then you let go. So we're actually going to make this a little bit bigger, maybe falling off to the screen edges, something like that. And I'm not really feeling the yellow now, so I'm actually going to go more of a blue. You double click on the color stop, go over here, and then maybe a deeper blue. There you go. So you got this kind of glowy center, and then it kind of gets to a deeper blue on the edges. Okay, so at this point we're going to make some text. So click the T button over here, and then you're going to click in. And I already have my text set up for what I was designing kind of before I started the tutorial. If you go into your text list, use Helvetica Bold. Helvetica Bold is one of the most used fonts for designers. There's movies and documentaries and books on kind of all about the typeface, but it's used on signage. It's used in hundreds of logos for different brands. Trust me, just use Helvetica Bold, and then once you start getting interested in fonts, you can search for some more later. But Helvetica Bold, and then we're going to set it to bold, and then I have my text all the way up at 350. So, I went to Georgia Bold. I want Helvetica bold, 350, and then I have my font set to white. You can go up here and set to whatever color you want, but keep it at white for now. And then I'm going to type in fixed, and then space shots, and notice it's falling off the screen. If you kind of hover away from it, it gives you this arrow with some directional, so you can click and drag it where you want it. I'm going to get it. It should be on the inside of the inside box, but I'm actually outside of it right now, so let's drop that down. Let's go 320. Oop, that didn't change anything. If you highlight this, it will change it. 320, and then I'm going to move it. I'm still not on the inside of the inside box, so let's go to 300 and move it. Yep, on the inside of the inside box. So if you don't have these overlays up, you're going to want to go to View, and then Extras will be those overlays. So View, Extras, and then View, and then Show. You want to have the guides. Yep, that should do it. So the inside of the inside box is where you want all text to be. So now we have fixed shots up there. And then I'm going to make a... No, I'll do it all in one layer. I'm going to hit Enter, and I'm going to type in my name. Okay, so now I'm kind of outside of the box. Let's actually go into some styling, so I don't have to keep selecting this and going up here. I'm actually going to go to this tool. It's the Move tool, or you can hit the V key, and that'll move this layer around. Note, you have to have the layer selected. If I select the background layer, it says it's locked. I have to double-click to unlock, say OK. Now you're seeing kind of the stuff beneath the background layer. I'm going to undo that. Command-Z is undo. You could also go into your history and go through the different history events that have happened to kind of get you back to where you want to be. But I want to go over to the character palette. You can go to Window and then Character, or it's also in this kind of right link bar. Here you're going to see the ability to kind of style the text, how we were just talking. And note, because this might not look how yours looks right now, I actually have some things set up here. So the text is at 300, but I can change the... I have to select the text layer, and then I can change this to change the distance between my lines. So I want to kind of keep it really tight, and then this set the tracking for selected characters. I like to squeeze the text together. If it's at 0, you're gonna have a gap between your font. That's okay, but I kind of like a tighter look. So set -75, it kind of puts these really tight gaps between the font. I think I had it set at 60. You could just highlight and type in, and now it gives you kind of the gap between your lettering. And I'm actually going to go over to paragraph, and maybe we will center align. So now it's kind of in the center. Okay, so at this point I kind of have center aligned text, and then the last thing I'm going to do is apply this action. If you go into your actions list or window actions, you should have that action that you downloaded. So if you download it and double click on it in your downloads, it'll kind of load it into the action. And you want to not select the topmost box because it won't allow you to play the action. See, this little says nope, you can't do that. We're going to select, let's go with a shorter pixel, and then this is the degree, so it's going to go 45 degrees, I think, this way, if I play this action. So here we're seeing this kind of long shadow from the font layer come off. Actually it's its own layer. So if I was to move it, it looks like that. If you want to move them together, I'm going to Command-Z undo. You have to click one and then shift-click to the second one, or Command-click if you wanted to select multiple, and now you can kind of move that around. I'm actually going to delete this layer. Click this little trash button and say yes. And let's go for a longer one, the long 255 pixel that'll fall off the screen. I'm going to hit play. Oops, it's creating it for the background layer. I'm actually going to undo that. Didn't undo. I'm going to trash that layer, say yes. I'm going to select the text layer and then hit play. And it'll be a little bit faster. Maybe not. So now you have this kind of fall off the screen edge thing happening with your shadow layer. So that's going to do it for this tutorial. And what you would want to do then is File, Save As, and save as either a JPEG or a PNG. I'm going to get you in the habit of saving as PNG because it keeps the transparency, so if there were any transparent objects within the frame, you could see through to the layer beneath in the video. I'm going to say save, and it'll be saving the exact same file name, but this time instead of PSD, it'll be PNG. And then that PNG file would then be able to be brought into a different application. So if I have Final Cut Pro open, I could say File, Import this media, and then I would be able to go to my C drive externally. I can sort by created, and now this was the last folder that was worked on, and then in here this is that PNG file, and I'm going to import the selected. And now I have it here, and I could drag it to my topmost layer. You know, set the in and out points here. This will be a 10-second graphic that I can drag to my timeline. This is on the end. If I wanted to kind of put it at the beginning, you drag it to the front. And now it would play for 10 seconds, and then later in time it would go to whatever graphic I had, or video I had afterwards. So that's kind of the gist of this tutorial here. It'll give you a nice Helvetica font with a long shadow, with a radial gradient in the background, and then we can kind of talk about styling and different design ideas from there.